How do you feel like your guys, did over the summer? I know you're not with them a ton. You're allowed just limited amount, but like as they've started the first couple of days, as far as your offense goes, how do you feel like they've done?
I thought it's been a great summer, really, really productive. Obviously, with the guys that were here in the spring, for them to be able to continue to build upon their learning from that, and the new guys who got here in the summer, guys attacked it. I thought Coach Mo and his strength staff did an unbelievable job changing their body compositions with the plan that they put in place and the work that the kids did. And again, with where we're starting and the number of installs that we're going to be throwing at these guys early, you can tell that they've studied, what they need to do. There hasn't been a ton of mental errors, just an egregious amount. That's kind of what you would expect for day one, day two, and that's because of the work that they put in over the summer.
What are your objectives for Shedeur this fall camp?
For him to have a conceptual understanding and a mastery level of what we're doing so that he can be an elite problem solver, right? So it's a matter of knowing where the answers are to the problems that the defenses present to us, and he can have the answers to the test. So when he sees the problems that show up, he can solve them in a very, very rapid manner.
You've added Kaysen and Gavin to your group.
Mm-hmm.
Curious what your early impressions are of them, and is there quite a bit that they have to catch up with Ryan Stock because he was here this spring?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that they got to pick up on, right? And so it's day two, and I don't want to put a label on either one of those guys early because they're learning. The one difference between the two of them is that Gavin's a little bit older, and you can tell that he's got some of that more mature game collegiate experience from his journey in life, where Kaysen is, because of who he is, just a true freshman right now, and he's learning kind of that transition and being away from home and all the things that go into that, but excited to pour into all the guys that are in that room and to continue to help them grow.
When you've got a guy who can do anything with that much talent, do you have to, what I'm talking about, do you have to dial back what you run with Hunter or how many things he does with this? Because, it's not 1950, two deep ball where you can run it and have him touch the ball in the play.
Right, I mean, the thing with Trav is there's everything that everyone sees in his physical gifts, but his mental capacity to learn and everything that he's learning in all three phases of the game, what we are going to ask him to do is where I'm going to continue to stress and test him to see where is that point to where his mental capacity can't handle anymore. As long as he can continue to take the uptick and know it and process it and apply his God-given abilities, and we're going to maximize that to the fullest.
You guys obviously want to throw the ball a lot, but it seems with the running back group, you've got 4 or 5 guys that you really can trust with a lot of with experience.
Yeah.
So how do you balance just wanting to get all of those guys and using all the talent you have in that room as well?
I want to get the ball into as many playmakers' hands as often as possible. However, we're going to do that. Whether we throw it, we hand it, we pitch it, we shovel it, we hide it under someone's legs and they hand it to someone else. I want to get the ball to our playmakers and utilize all their skill sets and get that speed in space as early and as often as possible.
What does Javon Antonio bring to that wide receiver group?
I mean, a presence, right? I mean, he's a big-bodied kid that can run, and again, he's got a ton of collegiate experience, so there's not a whole lot that phases him. And again, it's a matter of how fast can he uptake with what's going on, and then be able to apply that and use his physical gifts.
Is that a role that kind of in the spring you were looking maybe needed to get filled, that big physical receiver?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to upgrade and get bigger, stronger, faster, longer, across the board, and he kind of checks the boxes in a lot of those areas.
We hear a lot about your hyper-tempo offense. What does offensive identity mean to you? And by the end of the year, what would you hope to have developed?
Yeah, I want to make sure that when our fans and as us as an organization turn on that tape, it speaks for itself to where we're controlling the controllables, we're owning the line of scrimmage, and we're maximizing our calculated shots. Those are things that we can control, and those are things that when we do it, we're going to really like the outcome and the results of what it's going to be.
Coach, what do you guys have in Omari Miller?
Again, a young, talented young man, right? That is learning the craft of playing wide receiver at this level. But again, has size, has length, has a desire to be great. And again, after 2 days, he's flashed a little bit, and looking for him to continue to grow.
After years at Kent State, you have a new coaching opportunity. What has this process been like for you, kind of getting acclimated and kind of setting goals for yourself and what you want to achieve this fall?
Yeah, it's been awesome, right? You get to know the new staff, you get to know the new players, you get to learn a new organization, you get to move your family and learn how to drive in without the GPS, right? And so it's been fun to challenge myself and to challenge the staff to continue to grow as we work together and to get outside our comfort zones, right? And kind of break down those barriers so that we can have the good conversations that we need to have so that we can continue to move forward.
What about the wide receiver room? Obviously, you guys added Xavier Weaver as well this summer. How much are you just expecting big things from him right away is with the experience he's got.
A lot, right? I mean, he's a guy that has flashed early and has flashed often. He goes about his process the right way. You can tell that when he does anything football related, he does it like a pro, which I think is a great thing to have, right? He has those daily disciplines that when he steps in between the white lines, he's got a laser focus about him. That's big time. That the young guys, like an Omarion, need to look to, like a Jacob Page needs to look to and say, hey, that's how it's supposed to be done, and because of that day to day and what he does, again, that leads to the results that we're looking for.
Hey, Coach, what do you think about the social media handles on the back of the practice jerseys? Is that just another example of this great new college football world?
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I mean, give the guys an opportunity to build their brand, and I think it's an outstanding job by Coach to think outside the box and to offer, that unique perspective and that vehicle so that it's out there, it's for the guys, and they're able to get that identity. That's really cool.
They're gonna wear that week 1.
I don't think so, but it'd be cool if we did.
Charlie Finley in the A's put nicknames on the back of jerseys. That's something that nobody's seen.
I'm not sure. That's a question for Smitty and for Coach.
Does it also kind of speak to how you guys are just so hyper-focused on the individual and the man behind the helmet that you want them to grab that autonomy of having their social media profile all over their bodies?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, right, to where in terms of you got to be aware of the individual. Each one of these guys, each one of these staff members within our organization, comes from a different place, comes from a different space. I mean, shoot, we got guys from Australia, we got guys from Florida, we got guys from right here in Colorado, right, East Coast, West Coast. And so it's a matter of wherever we're from and the journeys that have taken us here, it makes us who we are. And yeah, we're chasing degrees and we're chasing helping these guys grow as young men, and we're chasing football results. But ultimately, when you strip everything away, like the individual and the humans in this great organization need to be right, because it's a human system. And so getting to know those individuals, building relationships with them, knowing what their handles are, right? That's all part of the individual and what makes them tick. So it's important to them. It needs to be important to us, and then they're right as a person so we can be right as a team.
What are you seeing within that tight ends room? Lewis Passerelle made strides in spring, and who are some personnel that you're like, that might be the guy?
Yeah, I mean, guys are taking tremendous strides, right? They're continuing to learn and grow. That room has been solid with us. The transition of Mikey Harrison over to that room adds a little bit of, athleticism, and he's been able to stress some vertical seams and do some things, within the route game, which has been very exciting. He made a nice back shoulder catch today, which was great. Tomorrow the pads come on, right? And we get done playing ball in pajamas here, and then we're going to see which one of those guys want to put their face on things and be physical.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, with Shedeur, he's obviously grown up learning how to be a pro with his dad. He's been around Tom Brady a lot, and when I talk to him, he seems very no nonsense, very detail oriented.
Yeah.
Is he different than other quarterbacks you've worked with?
I think he does an unbelievable job in editing his life. He knows what's important to him, and even though there's a ton of external noise and distractions that I think a lot of collegiate players, kind of fall into or get distracted with, whether that's for an afternoon, a weekend, or a semester, whatever the case might be, he's done a great job of editing his life, knowing what's important, making a decision of who he wants to be, and then aligning his actions to be that. And so that's a pretty mature and grown mindset that he has.
Does that make it easier on you as he's trying to learn this and help the other players learn this?
Yeah,
offense?
again, right, like it's great to have an example in the room, of how to have it be done the right way. And again, we're going to care and look after all the little things, right? But if someone has their life edited and you don't have to spend a whole lot of time worrying about what they're doing on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night when they have free time, right? Then it spends more time to build a greater bond and to pour into the areas that they want to be experts in.
Sean, you're a Big Ten alum. Do you kind of watch some of the news and the crazy stuff? And you're busy, I'm sure. No, I'm not worried about TCU. But there's some little back of you, some Chicago kid going, what? I mean, the Big 12 move here. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, I live in my bubble a little bit, right? But you're aware of the landscape that's changing and what's going on, and it's just, wild to think that geography doesn't mean a thing anymore, right? Like that's kind of looking like, okay, whatever, right? And it's probably going to be the Big 20 by the time it's all said and done.
Right.
So,
but recruiting with the case here, Texas and Florida, the things that Rick George and others have brought up, those are tangible things.
Absolutely.
Those aren't hypotheticals.
No, right. No, that as we look downrange and we look to the future, hey, top of mind right now at TCU and what we got going and what's going on with camp. But as you take a step back and detach and look out and up, right? It's obviously philosophically going to align with where we want to be and what we want to do with that transition to the Big 12.
How do you feel about the offensive line in their early days of camp?
Again, I mean, they're doing good. They're working hard. I don't want to put a label on them just yet because, again, it's a pillow fight right now, right? There's no pads, and let's figure out what's real when it becomes real.
What's the biggest challenge? You've got guys all over the country, different backgrounds, different schools, different coaching coming in. What's the biggest challenge for you, kind of getting everybody assimilated and on the same page?
Making connections, right? Understanding that no matter where you came from and maybe the way that you did it in the past doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it might not be how we're doing it here, right? So just making those connections, building trust so that we can be connected and we can move forward in alignment together.